Now I know you have seen shimmer oils up and down your timeline. That is all I see, and they're so beautiful and extremely fun to make. But one thing that I've seen in a lot of the comment sections is that the shimmer is settling. And this is something that you really don't want to happen, or you really want to try to avoid. So I tested out ways to see how we can make our shimmer oil and not have the shimmer settle down to the bottom. I have made a shimmer oil before, but I found that it still did settle a little bit and it did get a little bit too thick. So I wanted to create a thinner shimmer oil that can still be thin enough to come out of a dropper bottle or a pump bottle, but it's also thick enough that it's not going to have the shimmer settle and it will suspend through the oil perfectly. I can't wait to show you these results. Stick around to the end so you can see what's the best way to make sure your shimmer does not settle to the bottom of your oils. What's up, my beautiful entrepreneurs? When it comes to testing, you want to make sure that you are trying as many options as possible. When I decided to figure out how to make sure that the shimmer did not settle to the bottom of the shimmer bottle, I had to figure out ways that will really make sure that the shimmer just suspends throughout the whole entire bottle. You don't want it to settle. You don't want to have to shake it up. You don't want to have to see the difference between the oils and the shimmers. You want it to all look like one cohesive professional product. So that was my biggest goal with this video. Now, for the first thing that I tested, I wanted to see how I can make this really just all natural. I wanted to see how I can make this as all natural as possible. I didn't want to have to add in any emulsifying wax or Ollie Wax LC, because that's what I added when I first made the shimmer oil. But I found that you can still use an all natural product like cocoa butter or even cocoon butter, and this would be a really great way to add some thickness to your overall oils. But you're just going to want to add this at a very low percentage. I would say to add your cocoa butter or cocoon butter at between 5 to even 8% of the overall formula. You want it to give it a little bit of thickness, but you don't want it to, harden up like the, original product itself. Your oils in your shimmer oil are going to be upwards to, 70 to 80% of the overall formula. So you want to make sure that you still have that ratio with your oils, so when you are using these harder products like a cocoon butter or even shea butter or cocoon butter, you will still have the thickness that you are looking for. Now, when I added in the cocoa butter, I really liked the way that the texture was. It began to get pretty thick, but it was still a little bit too loose. It wasn't going to hold the shimmer within the oil. It wasn't enough to do it for me. What I noticed with the cocoa butter is that it did allow for it to thicken the overall formula, so it wasn't going to settle the shimmer wasn't going to settle as much with the cocoa butter, but it did begin to settle after allowing it to sit for a few hours. And even though you are having more of a all natural product this way by just using the cocoa butter or even cocoon butter, you are still having some settling happening with this, so it's not going to be the best option just to have cocoa butter. I even went ahead and added in an additional percentage, because I started off with 5% of cocoa butter, and with that it wasn't really that much of thickness with that, so I went ahead and I added in up to 8% of the cocoa butter. Now this did help, but again it did begin to settle within a few hours. So cocoa butter on its own isn't going to allow for your products to be thick enough for the shimmer not to completely settle to the bottom. Now, another really great ingredient that actually helps to thicken this product up is going to be arrowroot powder. Now, I wouldn't think to use arrowroot powder, but when I was thinking about another formula of making your products less greasy when it came to the body butter, arrowroot powder really helps to soak up the oils, really making the product less greasy overall. So while it's also soaking up the oil, it's also helping to thicken it up a little bit as well. So by adding in the arrowroot powder in combination with the cocoa butter, I realized that this really helped to thicken up the product a lot more, making it a lot more stable. It really helped for the shimmer to stay together within the oil, and it didn't settle as quickly with the arrowroot powder added in. Also, I can see a really big problem with it possibly not dispersing properly within your oil. But that was not an issue here. The arrowroot powder dissolves really quickly. You can see it immediately starts to absorb the oil, and it is starting to get thicker. Now if you don't have arrowroot powder, a really good alternative to that will be cornstarch. You can use tapioca powder. You can also use silica. That's another powder that you can use that does the same exact thing. So adding in that as an option, and I would add that in at about 3 to 5% of your overall formula. And the 3 to 5% is really based on how thick you really want it to get. Because not only does the arrowroot powder help with the thickness, but it also helps with the overall feel of this shimmer oil. When it comes to testing out products, it can be so time consuming and get really frustrating. Trust me, I get it. I hated testing in the beginning because it was just so much to do, so much to figure out. But I got you, because I'm coming out with beginner-friendly, pro-level formulas that you can purchase that will take out the testing so that you have a formula that is pro-level and ready right then and there. All you have to do is test it out for yourself to see how you like the formula so that you can get this out to your customers as soon as possible. I'm going to have a series of several formulas that I'm going to be coming out with. The first one is going to be this beautiful shimmer oil. Now, this shimmer oil is extremely stable, it has no settling, it is transfer proof, it's an extremely stable shimmer oil that's loose enough that it can be used in this pump bottle. You can easily use it in this pump bottle, as you can see, and it's great for dropper bottles as well. And you can see it has a beautiful texture, easy to glide onto the skin. It's almost makeup-like, and it has little to no transfer at all, and you can see that on my hand. So if this is something that you are interested in, definitely click down the link down below where you'll be able to purchase this formula sheet today. Now, the next thing that I tested for the shimmer oil is going to be stabilizers and thickeners. Now, when it comes to that, like, yes, olive wax is considered a stabilizer and a thickener. I found with that, it made the product too thick. If you see the texture of the first shimmer oil that I made, that was the first video I came out with shimmer oils, and I'll have that link down below. But if you look here at the texture of that, it is very thick, and yes, it's easy to apply, but I found that it was too thick for the dropper bottle. It started to get too thick over time, and you see the separation of the oil in the shimmer at the top of the bottle, and that's just not really what I'm looking for. Eventually, yes, someone is going to have to shake the bottle in order to use it, and it's going to be way too thick in order to actually use it in an application of a dropper bottle or a pump bottle, for example. So by using stabilizers like stearic acid, or even using cetyl alcohol as well, for an example, these are going to thicken up the product just a little bit, but it's not going to create too much creaminess for the product. It's really just going to help stabilize it and keep it thick enough that it's still going to be loose enough of a product. Remember, with your oils, this is upwards to 60 to even 80% of your overall formula. So by adding in, 3% of a stabilizer, this is going to help thicken up the product and keep it in its more creamier state, so that you're not losing the nice loose texture that you would want out of an oil, but you're still getting enough thickness and stabilization that the shimmer is not settling in this formula. So definitely give that a try when you are making your shimmer oils. Now for the overall results of all of this testing. Each one of the testings really worked well to get the product to not settle and for the shimmer to stay suspended within the product. But your best option is really to do all three by having a good combination of having a cocoa butter or cocoa butter, for example, adding in an arrowroot powder or cornstarch, and then also adding a stabilizer. All of this together will really help create a more stable product, but not too thick that you won't be able to use it in your regular applications, and it will be also easy to really glide onto your skin. Now, if you are really interested in having a more stable shimmer oil that you can test out, definitely try out this shimmer oil that I have. I will have it linked down below to purchase. This is a really great beginner-friendly pro level formula, and I'm wearing it on my chest right now. I'm going to rub my chest so that you can see. and is not transferring. So this is a really great formula. Now, if you're still wanting to create a shimmer oil and you just want something that's still beginner friendly and that you can just test out for yourself, watch this video here where I share with you how to make 3 different types of shimmer oils with 3 different types of shimmer, and I'll catch you in the next one.